Hi, welcome to today's video. My name is Paul. So spring is indeed on the way. In fact, if you go by the old farming calendar, spring is already here. In fact, we're almost halfway through spring. In that old calendar, February, March and April were springtime. It does kind of make sense for farmers because, for example, sheep farmers, February is lambing season. And back in the day when I had a garden, I would have planted potatoes and things in March. So this time of year for me definitely feels like spring is already here. But anyway, this is supposed to be an art channel, not a gardening or farming channel. So getting back to the art, the color scheme that I'm using is, at least in part, because of spring. So I'm going back to a sort of color scheme that I would have used last year. Brighter colors, more spring-like colors. The other reason for choosing the colors we'll get on to towards the end of the video. This is a short video, partly because my voice is sort of giving way a little bit this week. And also, usually I would have the video recorded and finished and everything by sort of Wednesday or Thursday, and then release it on the Saturday. But as I'm sitting here recording this, it is already Saturday morning, so I'm already way behind where I would normally be in the week. So it's going to be a shorter video, and it's going to be a bit of a all over the place sort of video, but maybe most of the videos are. I was reading this morning about an article about different ways of painting landscapes. And in this article they said there were 3 approaches to painting landscapes. The first one being representational, the second one being impressionistic, and then the third one being abstract. Which is an interesting way of thinking about it. It's not how I usually think of painting landscapes. I tend to think of it more as a spectrum. At one end of the spectrum you have the representational art, and at the other end of the spectrum you have more abstract approach to painting landscapes. This painting, and in fact all of the paintings that I do, landscape paintings, tend to be more at the abstract end of that spectrum. It's just something that I'm happier at that end of the spectrum, if you like, than the representational sort of approach. It does, for example, last week looked at a little bit about colour, and things like colour choices and value ranges and things, that all comes into how you approach painting landscapes. So if you are more towards the representational end of the spectrum, you're going to have to look at the actual colours that are there in the landscape, and you're going to have to think about the value ranges and things that are there to get that accurate, naturalistic sort of representation of the landscape. And as I said last week, with the abstract approach, you're dealing more with, say, arbitrary colours, and the value ranges. One, it's still important. It's certainly not as important as the representational type of art. So with this little painting, and it is a small painting, the composition is very simple. It's basically just divide the paper into 2 halves. Top half being the sky, the bottom half is the land. And then the colour scheme, as I said, it's mostly blue and yellow. A little bit of green, of course, where you're going to get some mixing of the blues and yellows. But painting a little painting with the top half being blue and the bottom half being mostly yellow, that was not an accident. There's, as I say, part of it was due with springtime, but part of it is also my tiny little comment on the current geopolitical situation in Europe, especially Eastern Europe. And although I always try to avoid politics on this channel. It's not a politics YouTube channel. I felt that I had to make some little sort of comment about the current situation, especially when you have a madman who seems determined to wipe out a country, and the dangers that he poses to, well, the whole world really. So I think this little painting maybe suggests who my allegiances would be with one side rather than the other. Okay, well, if you made it this far in the video, thank you for sticking with me. Again, apologies for the little bit of politics creeping in, but I just felt I had to say something about this situation. It is part of the reason why I haven't really done any art or drawing this week. When you have the situation that's unfolding at the moment, it's difficult to sit down and paint and draw, at least for me anyway. Okay, so again, thank you for watching the video, and hopefully see you in next week's video.